afternoon, good evening, everyone again. And I started recording. Let's start out today's session. Artyom, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. We are good to go. Hi, guys. The topic of today's lesson is Jenkins configuration as a code. It's really exciting topic. So let's begin. One moment, I'm starting to share my screen. Mhm. So let's quick recap the previous lesson. We have pipeline lesson 9. It's pretty good. It's running. Everything is all right. But we would like to improve one thing. Each time we provision a new Jenkins installation, we need to make some configuration. Even if we have a Jenkins file in some GitHub repository with the pipeline, nevertheless, we have to do some tasks. We have to install plugins. We have to create pipelines, clicking new items, and so on and so on. So for just for taking things easier, Jenkins configuration as a code was involved here. So let's install the plugin and check what it can allow us to do. One moment. Plugin is called a configuration as code. Okay, let's check. It is the URL, and let's install it. So now we can see a new item in the managed Jenkins. It's a configuration as code, and it's pretty easy to use for the first time. We can just download our existing configuration, and here is the YAML file, and we can look at it. So we can upload this YAML if we, for some reasons, lost our data in Jenkins home, and if we need to reprovision Jenkins, here we have our data. And what else? Of course, we can reload existing configuration with the YAML file which we just received. But it's not the only one thing that could be done using this plugin. And it's just a configuration. I mean that here we receive our some management stuff like users, nodes, and some technical stuff, but not plugins, first of all. And so now our task is to create a custom Jenkins image with all required plugins already installed in it. So I have prepared a short diagram, what we are going to do to understand. So we would like to prepare some Docker file. and plugins txt with all the plugins which we would like to install. And as you remember, we can install plugins just with the command install plugin something and plugin and its version. And we took official Jenkins image, which we are already is using always. And we can build new new image just inside Docker Compose YAML file. And as a result, we will receive Jenkins container with all the plugins already installed. And there will be no need to install it in the fresh server. So let's try to test it. First of all, I would suggest to create repository in GitHub where we will keeping our configuration as a code files. So for this reason, I'm going to GitHub and create repository, name it Jenkins_CASC. I will make it public. And that's all. So first of all, we need to create Docker file. Let's do it right here. And here will be only 3 lines. So we're using the image Jenkins. Then we copy local file names, file plugins to user share Jenkins plugin. And we running installing these plugins from file Jenkins plugin CLI -f and pass to the file. Pretty simple. Okay, let's save it. Next, we need to create a file also with the plugins. Name plugin.txt. And inside these plugins, which we are using in our course, workflow aggregator, Golang, GitHub, SSH agent, SSH slave, Docker workflow, configuration as a code, of course, job DSL, and pipeline stage view. Okay, let's commit the changes. So now we have 2 files, Docker file and plugins.txt. And need to edit Docker compose file, which we are going to use in AWS. So we are going to user data instance 1. And here is the Docker compose file for Jenkins. And here we need to change image to the custom image. So we are using image Jenkins, and we will build it manually from this directory. And by default, Docker is looking for Docker file. So there is no need to point it here. So as we are going to use new image, there is no need to use Jenkins home with all the plugins pre-installed. So for this purpose, I would suggest to change also storage to comment our storage. We no need to attach it to EC2 instance. And as we have commented mount in target, we need also to remember comment this line depends on it is when we are waiting for mounting to be ready first, and only after this we are launching instance one. So depends on has been committed. I suppose it's enough. Let's reprovision the Jenkins. And we will destroy instance one. It's EC2 for Jenkins, and reapply it after that. Sorry, one moment. Forgot to enter my keys. So while it is creating, let's look at our diagram. So what we have made, we removed attaching EFS to EC2 just to test configuration as code. So now all our old configuration remains here, and we reprovisioned it this instance as if we run it from the first time. Throw IO is quite useful for this. It looks like this. And here are some pre-configured stuff for cloud. For example, like this. Okay, it's very long. Instance 1 is ready. Instance 2 creating. Instance 2 is ready, and instance 3 is still creating. Instance 1 is ready. But here, okay, instance 2, let's check it also from terminal. Not ready, and instance 3 ready. Okay. Let's look at instance 1 and change the log. Nothing has been created because we missed one thing here. We're using building from the context of Jenkins CASC, but there is no file. We need to download it from a GitHub repository. So first of all, we need to edit. We need to git clone our repository. So this way, git clone Jenkins CASC repository, then make sure that we have permission to this directory, and after that, we'll be using all the files inside our build. Let's save it and provision the infrastructure. And there was some error for instance 3. Okay. Let's reprovision instance 1. Okay. Okay, there is some issue with instance 3, but we wanted to use it at this lesson, so we'll just use instance 1, and it's enough for us. So we need just to check the IP address of instance 1. Here it is. Let's log in. And now we are waiting while all the necessary programs will be installed and waiting for downloading files from GitHub repository also. Okay, here we go. Let's check it. The Docker Compose file has been created, and now I suppose we are waiting for Docker Compose to be started, because when we run Docker Compose app, it is downloading Jenkins image, and it is installing all the files inside it, all the plugins which we defined in this directory plugins.txt. Docker Compose has been started. So it is up, and let's check. If load balancer hasn't been updated, still we can check it, the public IP address. So we have a new installation, and next where we are here. So we select none plugins, for example. And if you're going to manage Jenkins, and here we have already seen that configuration as a code has been installed already inside Docker container. And now we can see that there are lots of installed plugins which we are using for our task. And here we can see that the pipeline plugin has also been installed. Okay, that's great. Let's check what is our infrastructure as a code. Okay, all resources has been created successfully, I suppose. And just for check proposals, let's check. Okay, our production server is up and running. And here is our node 1. Suppose it is also with us. Yes, it's here. So great. So now you can see that we defined plugins in file, and there is no need to install all these plugins each time. And if it is needed, we can define versions for these plugins. So let's move forward, and it is needed to manually update a configuration for each Jenkins instance. So as you can see, I need to ask admin initial password and proceed with all the stuff once again, and we can use our Jenkins configuration, which we have just downloaded. I can use this YAML file for configuration, and let's do it. Let's go to repository with Jenkins configuration as code, and let's create new file. Create new file. And let's call it Jenkins CASC.yaml, and copy paste from our configuration. Yes. Done. And one point. I have added a user here. This line is absent in the original file of the configuration. Let me open it once again. So look at this field. There is only the identifier and the name. There is no password because it's not secure. And here we can define a password for our username. I define it as a variable, Jenkins admin password, and I will provide Jenkins configuration as a code with this variable a bit later. So next, we need to update Docker Compose itself. I'm going to instance 1 user data. Here is Docker Compose. And we need to add volume to mark Jenkins CASC YAML to var Jenkins YAML. This is the way how we put the configuration to Jenkins. And we need to add some environments here because we need to provide the Jenkins password, and it could be done through variables, through environment variables. Edit. So here we have our Jenkins admin password, which was defined here in the configuration, and we will use this variable inside our user data. So now to use real password, we need to provide user data with a new variable. So let's save it. And it could be done in a compute instance one. And here we can provide one more variable inside inside the user data. And just will be using password itself. Okay, let's save it. So now we're expecting to provision new Jenkins instance with both pre-installed pipelines and with all our configuration, including username with its password. So let's destroy instance one once again. Perform destroy target instance one. Okay, Jenkins This has been provisioned successfully. Great. We are waiting for Docker, which is building a new image. These plugins pre-installed. Okay, great. Okay, Jenkins is up. Mhm. Something has failed. Let's check it. Let's update this file. Okay, let's recreate it once again. So now again, we are waiting while Jenkins will be provisioning it. Okay, let's check it. So it's asking us username, and let's try password as a password. Okay, great. Now we have saved our configuration as code, and we have our pipelines already here. Oh, no, not pipelines. We have our plugins also installed. Let's check. So, and we have our configuration like usernames and some other, but look here, we don't have pipelines at all. We have no one pipeline, and it saves separately from the configuration. So our next step is to keep pipelines as code in Jenkins CASC directory. Let's create new file. And for this purpose, we can use Groovy language. And like this, we can write a comment for file. And for example, let's create a new pipeline. So we can define a function. I will show you it quite shortly. This is the function create pipeline. It could be use some arguments, string name, string git URL, and inside this function, there is a code which will create a defined pipeline, which will be using branch main, script for pipeline inside Jenkins file, and for Git URL a variable will be used as a URL. And you can look to Jenkins itself when we are creating new pipeline. Let's look at the similarity. So if we are using a pipeline script from source control management, we can see the same fields like here. Source code management, Git and Git URL, branch and script path, all the same. So if when we have created a function which could make new pipelines, we can create just one pipeline, just for test. We using this function like in Python or any other language. And as an argument, we have a pipeline lesson 10, for example. It is the name, and it could be used here at this function, pipeline job name. And the other argument is the URL. But here we need, yes, GitHub, as we are using this application, web app, it's here. It's our Jenkins file and app.go file. So it's enough. Let's save the changes. And now we need to update Docker Compose file with a new file. Let's go to configuration. Docker Compose is here, and we have new volume. Okay, like this. We are using seed drop Groovy from Jenkins CASC to inside the container. And of course, we need to update Jenkins CASC YAML file to be able to use this Groovy script. Let's save this configuration. And Jenkins CASC YAML is the configuration. It is required to add just one line. It is jobs, and here we can define all the jobs which we would like to create, or all the scripts on Groovy. Maybe one script will make 5 pipelines, another script 10 pipelines. So that's all. This is the only change we have made. And once again, we need to reprovision Jenkins instance, destroy, and apply after that. Okay, and while it is applying, let's have a look at our diagram once again. Now it's full. And what is done? We are using Docker file for creating new image with plugins. So we have plugins installed. Then we are using Jenkins settings in the separate YAML file, and we attach it to the container using Jenkins compose. And now we are using the same way, cjob.groovy, attaching it to Jenkins container, and inside Jenkins CASC YAML, we noted that we are going to use this file for creating jobs and pipelines. And this way we have all needed configuration. It is kept in one place in Git repository, and it could be keep safe and use in multiple Jenkins instances. Yes, right. So let's check. It is up for 4 seconds only. So let's refresh the page. Okay, that's great. We have already have our pipeline. So we have our plugins installed, we have our configuration, even we have our agent node pre-configured, and we have our pipeline. It has been stage 2. It's not run yet. So let's run this pipeline even once. We need to edit node 1 IP because IP address has been changed. Like this. I suppose I need to update password for this course. Okay, authentication was successful. And we need to change the IP address of our production server. it is instance free, and it is inside Jenkins file. Here we are going to change the IP address of production server. Let's check production server itself. Yes, it is ready. So let's check this link. Okay, it is also a load balancer is also up and running. DNS was propagated, and here we are. Node 1 is in sync, as I see. Yes, node 1 is in sync. And so now we can try to build this pipeline lesson 10. While it's getting so long. Because we are downloading a image Golang latest for the first time. Yes. Something failed. And of course, credentials. I have to define credentials here. Just one moment. Okay. I have updated credentials, and we can test it one more time. Oh, that's a very good point. Here we can see that we have no permission to workspace defined in pipeline. So here we need to change it to lesson 10. It's just specific to Golang application. It's not Jenkins specific. Let's check the console output. What is happening? Oh, that's great. It's already testing. And success. Okay. And now the final test. We're going to, oh, sorry, not here. We are going to application as a developer and changing hello from lesson 10, for example. Just commit our changes. Mhm. And when we will copy this GitHub hook trigger should works. So it is HTTPS. Looks good. Here is the checkbox GitHub trigger exists. Maybe let's try HTTP. Okay, it's not the topic of our today's lesson. I suppose it could be troubleshooted, but we can build it once more time just to check. Okay. So that's all for today. Let's quick recap what has done at today's lesson. Now we have all our configuration of Jenkins is GitHub repository. We need only 4 files: Jenkins file, plugins, Jenkins CASC with the configuration, and seed job Ruby with pipelines. And before starting Jenkins, we are building a custom Docker image with all the plugins pre-installed. And after that, using Docker Compose, we attaching Jenkins CASC YAML and C job Groovy to Jenkins itself. And as a result, we have a ready to be used Jenkins container with all the needed pre-installed. Okay, that's all for today. Do you have any questions? You are welcome.
Yes, I have a question, Artyom. So I think it's good if we highlight and summarize once again why we need CASC. We already have Jenkins file. Why we need CASC as well?
While we need task, because if we need to provision multiple Jenkins instances, and what if we need to edit only change plugin version or maybe add some small changes in pipeline, and we can make another version of our infrastructure state and provision new Jenkins with the required settings.
Yeah. So the idea is that whatever goes into our pipeline steps goes in Jenkins file. But to deploy Jenkins file, we need to do bunch of Jenkins settings outside of pipeline. Which plugins it is used, which settings it is used, where Jenkins file itself can be found. And all these, I would say, full cycle turnkey end-to-end automation is achieved using Jenkins CASC. That's the purpose, that's the reason. Hope that's clear for you guys.
Yes, Sayed.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi, yes, I can hear you well.
Yeah, sorry, I know it's a bit late. So, quick questions. One is that if we're having these configurations in the Git repo, I can see that there were some private keys and passwords in the Jenkins cask.yaml. So, are they safe there, or is there any other place they should be?
I see. You mean this file?
Yeah.
As you can see, it doesn't work. So I had to change my password. I had to change my private key because it's safe. It's safe in this file, but it is not actually. It has a hash of the password and hash of the private key. It doesn't contain your key itself or your private key itself. It's only hash.
Okay, got it. Second question was that are we storing any configurations in the EFS? My understanding was that we will have the configurations and the data saved in EFS. Maybe I was wrong.
Okay,
So
it's a
can you
good
elaborate on that?
question. Yes, we save our configuration in EFS. It's pretty safe, and we are comfortable with this. But imagine that something goes wrong and your Jenkins broken, and you need to provision new one in 5 minutes. So you will have to install all plugins. You will have to remember what versions was using, and so on and so on. And when we are keeping all the settings in a file, like it's like Terraform, AWS. So if we have all the infrastructures in file, we can easily destroy it and create once again, just in a few minutes. Same story.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
So if there is no questions, I suppose that's all for today. And see you on Friday. Okay, bye-bye, guys.